What is up, everybody? This is Spencer Burnett and Selena Bond today, and we are together on YouTube Live and on Instagram Live talking about the real reasons that women blow you off, guys, because it happens so much. Like, you get an opportunity, you're out with your friends, you see a beautiful woman there, you kind of work up the nerve, but then you kind of disqualify yourself. Or you walk up to her and she kind of gives you one-word answers and blows you off. Or maybe you get the phone number and she doesn't respond back to you. So today I wanted to get on this video with Selena to talk about the real reasons that guys, that women aren't really that interested in the guys that want them. So welcome, Selena, to my channel and to Instagram Live. How's it going?
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
I know.
This is like my first Google Hangout, my first Instagram Live on my channel.
It's awesome. It's like when you see press conferences and there's like 6 mics because all the stations. I kind of feel like that right now. So
feels so important.
Right? Yeah, I know. I almost want like monitors up here. I mean, the more of course.
Is to full square.
Right. So okay, let's get into it. So first of all, for at least my followers that watch my stuff and the guys that are part of my Omega Man program, tell us a little bit about what you do and your coaching program and kind of how you got into it.
Sure. So I feel like I got into this kind of organically. I do have an honors degree in communication. So I do have a background in kind of understanding how technology specifically affects communication within relationships and business. That's kind of like what I specialized at university. And then other than that, I feel like I just had this open energy. And just a few years ago, people would come up to me on the streets and at the beach. I was currently living in Australia, or I was living in Australia. I'm currently in the United Kingdom in London. And people would always come up to me on the streets and share with me like their deepest relationship secrets. And I was so uncomfortable with it at first. I thought, why are people sharing these things with me? I'm just some strange woman, but people feel so comfortable. And I was actually really natural at giving them communication advice. And once people started coming back to me and saying that it worked and like, what else can I say to my boyfriend or my wife, then I started to read more about it. And I had been reading dating books since I was super young and not even dating. I was always interested and fascinated in the human mind and human connection and communication. I have a background in acting, so I'm very aware of the human emotions and characters and objectives within relationships. So this all kind of just came together organically. And now I feel like I've honed in on my gift and my skill, and from all the reading and learning that I've experienced, I created this business. And so now I do one-on-one Skype calls with men. I am open to doing it with women as well, but my specialty is with men, or my focus is on men right now. And just helping them understand how to connect with a woman, connect with the feminine energy, connect with their own masculine energy, and how to communicate to women so that they feel understood, and so that the man feels understood and feels desired and feels that sense of connection. And I also do this through coaching on Tinder, because I am on and off Tinder and I kind of understand how that whole scene works. So I revamp guys' profiles just so that they know kind of what to put in their bios to attract women and what photos to use, because it's so important to use photos. Like, women are really good at filters and angles and lighting, and sometimes I feel like men, I mean, unless they're a model, that they struggle a little bit how to show that masculine core in a photo. I help kind of figure that out. And I know Trip and I talked about this. If Trip, it's Trip, I know he's watching, kind of what makes a masculine photo. He could tell you a good story about that.
I think I'm laughing because I might be thinking of the same story that you're talking about. But it's funny, like, as men and women do, in general, we tend to think that the other thinks the way that we think. And so guys tend to put pictures on Tinder like, hey, here's a full body shot so you know that I'm not catfishing you. Here's me, here's me, I've got some friends. Here's another one, and then here's a couple pictures of me looking cool.
Me and my bros, like frat pictures. It's like, who's your audience? Is this for the boys? Do you want to show, like, they literally have like their pants down on the top of the mountain and think this is going to attract a woman?
Right. Right. Might make your friends laugh, you know what I mean? But that's not really what the Tinder profile's for.
That's not the objective. I think that's not the real objective, right?
Yeah. So one of the things I love about having a conversation with a female dating coach is the contrast in the conversation opposed to when I have a conversation with a male dating coach. And you know, because where we are the same is we're giving guys advice on how they should, you know, behave and interact and all that stuff. But on the other hand, you've got, you know, with the female perspective, well, here's what I'm feeling and noticing when I'm going through this. But on the other hand, and a lot of women have been like, well, that's what makes a woman more qualified. But then I ask myself the question, how many women have you picked up? So it's like on your, not you specifically, but any woman has picked up, because it's like, well, who knows more about the car, the one who drives it, or the mechanic? You know what I mean? So it's always, and what I've found to be true is both perspectives are crazy useful, which is why I am so excited to have a conversation with you today, because we're gonna get to hear things from the female point of view that we don't typically get, and the value of you being a dating coach. You have been able to see men's point of view through your own, which also brings a super unique perspective to like you know, getting a girl's phone number and taking her out on a date, which is what we're going to talk about today. And I love how like our conversation just started getting traction before this. And I was like, hold up, save it for the talk, because
it's horrible, because as much as it had traction, it's got traction because I use myself as an experiment. My life is an experiment for my work. And I don't want to say that the guys that I date are an experiment, but I don't know. Maybe you will kind of understand like that dynamic.
Yes, I do understand it. And I mean, you teach from your own life experience. There's only so many classes and books you can read. You know what I mean? So from some angle,
if I can say, that's the beautiful thing about like the feminine energy is we're so intuitive, and when you really are fully in that feminine energy, you have so many gifts and feelings within you that you can share, and like this comes more naturally. I'm not saying it doesn't come naturally to a man, but I just feel so in tune with what I'm doing right now. It's just aligned with the energy that I'm in.
Awesome. So we will get into your dating situations in a little bit then, because that's what I was excited to get into.
Not fully in them, but
well, we'll touch on it. Hey, I'm an open book too. We're both in this conversation. You can ask me whatever you like. I certainly have a lot of experiments. What did you call them?
Well, I don't want to call them experiments, but when they define an experiment.
Sure. Okay, so we're talking about the 3 C's of getting a girl on a date, which is confidence, charisma, and chemistry. So let's first start off with confidence. You know, I was watching your YouTube channel, and you were talking about like alpha males, and you referred to them, which I loved better than alpha, which is a high value man. Mm-hmm. So I guess to start, like, you know, I tell guys a lot, the pickup starts way before the approach. It starts like when you get out of bed in the morning and how you feel about yourself and like what you bring to the table. So what do you tell guys in terms of like the characteristics that women are looking for in a high value man?
Okay. I'm seeing here that we have an echo. Is it me that has an echo? Can I fix that before we continue? Or is that because I don't have the echo might be because you're not using headphones, and so they can hear you twice in the in that. So if I put headphone should I put it in my iPhone? Would that help?
I'd put your headphones into your computer.
Oh gosh, my computer. Sorry to interrupt. I just want it to be a good sound. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Hopefully that's better.
Okay, I can hear you better. Guys, let us know if that is better. I'm seeing that Sam joined. All of the comments are slightly below my head. Here, let me do this. All right, my sister says it's all good. and so does and so does Josh. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Now I can also see these. Oh. Oh, hey, Layla. I thought you were watching on YouTube. Yeah, that's okay. Layla's my girlfriend. She's also watching. So she'll vouch for all of my crazy stories. We'll get into that later. All right. So high value man, like what is your definition of that?
I'd like to say that a high value man is almost the same thing as a high value woman. Like, number one, you have to have respect for yourself, and you have to have a standard. You have to know what you're looking for. I think that's the base of a high value person in general, like genderless wise. And then more so for the high value man, I believe I spoke in my video a little bit about just the kind of activities that gives off that kind of masculine, confident energy. So doing kind of sports like playing football, or I don't know, skydiving, or kind of like action-based testosterone-filled things, that kind of makes you a high-value man, rather than, no offense, like sitting at home and playing video games. It doesn't really expand the mind or the masculinity or the physicality of your being. Being out in nature is really important, like hiking or whatever kind of like activities you like to do out in nature, body surfing, that sort of thing. You know, what else? What other ones did I say before? What are some of the ones that can you add to my list?
Oh, absolutely. So like knowing what you bring to the world, like what value you actually have for the people around you is the number one thing. And I like what you said about it. I mean, it's not just sports or skydiving. It's something that makes you feel alive, and doing that on a regular basis. Because I found that like when you do things that are challenging for yourself, whether it's to have a successful business, to play competitive sports, to go skydiving, to lose 40 pounds, whatever it is, like when you've demonstrated to yourself that there can be just a monster in front of you and you can conquer it, that's what makes you feel valuable as a man. And like that type of energy, when you go to start a conversation with a new woman that you're attracted to, like everything that you were doing, everything you were feeling during that day comes with you in that conversation. Yeah. And so it's like if you kick ass in, I actually have a guy, I talked to my very first client ever. His name's Jason. What up, Jay? Because I know he'll be watching this. He talked to me. He talked to me about approaching a girl at a party that he was at with his friends, and he got a little nervous, and he thought to himself, like, I just did a presentation in front of 1,500 corporate executives. Like, I can do this. So like when you look at the things that you've done in your day and be like, I've kicked ass today. Like, I can do this. And so that's really what I see it as is a man that knows what he's capable of and demonstrates that in whatever way that he wants.
And not only that, usually when he's like, kicking ass in his day or his job or whatever, it's because he has purpose behind it. And when men have a purpose-filled life, they have drive, they have passion for something, that all comes out in their energy as well.
Yeah, and that's one more thing I want to add to that is like a lot of times guys think that women are looking for a man that's made it. I don't really necessarily agree. Women are looking for a man that's going somewhere.
Yes.
And the fact that a man made it is only demonstration that he's been somewhere. And this one here, and it's tough. I got my producer in the back.
So official.
Yeah, I know, right? Damn, what was I saying now? No, I missed my point. It's okay. High value man, kicking ass in his day.
Yes.
Now I can't see the notes that Josh is putting. All right. Well, let's get to the first part. That will eventually come back to me.
Yeah.
All right. So the first step to like meeting a woman is going out to a place where like you can meet women. And so I think a lot of times, especially in the dating industry, you read a lot of copy and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, meet girls at Starbucks, meet girls at a party, meet girls at a bar. Where are some kind of conventional and unconventional places to meet women in your opinion?
So I don't really agree in that sense, because I feel like you can meet women anywhere, anytime. I mean, a guy has chased across a street, a guy has stopped his car to get out of his car and speak to me. I mean, if you are really interested in someone's energy, them flowing, walking down the street, like, go up and talk to them. And that comes from just talking to a whole bunch of people. Even maybe if you don't even want to date this person, if you just find someone interesting on the street, and I'll even do it myself. If I find someone interesting in the grocery store, like, I'll just talk to them.
So have you had, oh, and I completely agree. Like, you know, meeting women meeting people in general is something that happens all throughout the day. It's not just on the weekends or at nighttime or on a dating app or something. There's literally opportunities everywhere. And that's why I encourage guys to make being social a lifestyle, a switch that you turn on and that emanates everywhere you go, and not just talking to beautiful women, but also talking to your Uber driver and the person at Walgreens that, you know, bagged up your groceries or whatever. And making sure that, like, you're constantly in flow every day. I tell this story. I met this one girl. I was on the phone talking to my mom, I believe, helping a client buy a place. And I was walking past this this hair salon, and she was in the chair. And so I knocked on the window and I was like, "Hey, you're gorgeous. You're gorgeous." And I went up, I looked at the property, came back down, went back in there, and basically was like, "Hey, I thought you looked great in that chair." So I was like, "Hey, my name is Spencer." Me and her ended up dating for a couple months. That was Tuesday at 11:15 in the morning. You know, I mean, there's absolutely opportunity everywhere. Where would you say is the most interesting place that a man has approached you?
Okay, so this happened a few weeks ago to me, and I was just walking through the Kensington area, if anyone's familiar in the London area, and I was crossing the street, and this man literally kind of jaywalked. It's like at the end of the light, and he's chasing after me, and he's like, excuse me, I just need to ask you, where's the Natural History Museum?" And we're literally standing out in front of it, like it's right in front of us. So I was like, this classic line, right? And I was like, you're looking at it. And so we kind of crossed the street together, partially jaywalking, because he'd like stopped me in the middle. There's like a median kind of in the middle of it. And then we crossed to the other side of the street. And we start chatting a little bit, and he wants to take me out. And he's using lots of, I can tell that he's been reading pickup artist books, UA books. Right. He's definitely read The Game. He's using all these kind of like smarmy kind of lines. And it just wasn't my cup of tea. So I kind of just turning him down. He wouldn't let me turn him down, because I feel like PUAs, they keep saying consistency. If you keep kind of like pushing at her, she's going to eventually just go for coffee with you. And I strongly was not feeling it. And so he's like, let's just be friends. Let's go for coffee as friends. And I was like, just because I'm not going to go coffee for you, like possibly romantically, doesn't mean all of a sudden I'm going to go coffee just as friends. Like, I don't want to collect friends like in that way. Like, I'm open to meeting new people in this country. But at the same time, like, that's not really his real intention. So why try to kind of backtrack and say that, no, I just want to be friends. So that was kind of like a little bit of a strange, uncomfortable thing. But we ended up talking for like a half an hour outside of the Natural History Museum. And he, every, 5-10 minutes was like, okay, but we're going to go for coffee, right? And I was like, no, I'm having a great conversation and chatting with you, but I was like, this is our coffee time right now. So make use of it. Because I just wasn't, I was being straight up with him. Like, I'm not interested in furthering this connection at this time.
Were you not physically attracted to him?
I wasn't. Physically, no. He wasn't quite my type. I'm quite tall. He was quite short. That's just a preference for me, but also just in his energy, I could tell that he was using the pickup lines, and right away for me, that just didn't feel natural. It just didn't. I mean, you have how many seconds to impress someone?
Right.
Was it 3-5 seconds? Right. He didn't do it within that period of time. And I know he was just trying to catch me as I crossed the street, because I could have, walked my long legs like really fast away from him after the light. But at the same time, I just felt like it just didn't all come together. And he was out of breath. So maybe he was a little bit, it was just a whole bunch of like little factors, I guess, all together that just didn't make for a confident approach.
Right. So, okay. So so he got to talk to you, you know, for a half hour.
He
You know what I
did.
mean? So were you
I was
just
being very polite.
okay? So you were just being polite.
Not only that, but whenever, it's not that I was just trying to be polite and entertain him in that way, but I also have a very curious nature, kind nature, and I want to understand kind of what books he was reading and how he got up his confidence. So I wanted to kind of understand his journey with pickup artistry and how he was attracting women in his life.
So did you tell him that you were a dating coach?
I did end up telling him yes.
Okay. Cool.
Because he didn't understand why his tactics didn't work on me.
Okay.
And that's how he started telling me, oh, I've been reading all his books. And I was like, I've read them as well. And this is what I do.
Do you feel like women are open to being spoken to in the middle of the day, or do they find it kind of creepy?
No, absolutely. And I've had other guys approach me at the grocery store, whatever, drugstore, on the street, coffee shops. And I think it's totally natural if you are really confident about it. And I don't see anything wrong with it at all.
Okay. So that brings me to my next question. So, all right. So when you are out and, or when guys go out, they need to emit this certain type of attitude, because I think you can agree that it's not like exactly what a man's saying that's going to hook you in those first 5 seconds. It's kind of that feeling that you're getting from him. So like what type of attitudes do you suggest guys, you know, show up with in order to get them to connect? And then what other type of attitudes does just make a woman just be like, no, I'm not doing this at all?
Yeah, no, this is a great question. So I made a few Instagram videos on my profile the other day that like the number one thing that I feel like ignites attraction or confidence within the self is just assuming attraction, assuming that everyone thinks you're the hottest thing on the planet. Because I feel like some guys will come up to me and they'll be shaking like a leaf. And I feel like I'm a little bit of an intimidating presence, I guess, in real life. I'm quite tall. I'm tanned here, which is not very common in the UK. And I just feel like in general, like people are a little bit intimidated. So they're shaking and they're really nervous and they feel like I wouldn't think they're worthy, or, you know, I feel like they just don't think that they're worthy to talking to me. And I'm not a god. Like I don't, you can't don't put me on a pedestal in that way. Like assume that I think you're the most like beautiful person inside and out, even though I don't know you yet. Assume that I think you're really fit and confident and like a happy, successful person. And if you assume that, I will feel that energy. And I'll be drawn to that. And I won't really understand, well, I understand because I have awareness of it, but most women won't understand what it is, but they'll get that within that first 3 to 5 seconds of that first impression that you need to make.
Yeah, I love that, like assume attraction. And one of the things that I do in my live training, I do a live training every other week called How to Get a Date by This Weekend Without Dating Apps or Cheesy Lines. And we talk about mantras, like that inner voice that's in your head that's constantly telling you who you are and what to do. And the thing is, we always listen to that voice, right? But a lot of times the voice is like, you know, she's too pretty for me. She probably has a boyfriend. Like you're going to be bothering her. All those negative reinforcements. So it's like, so to assume attraction, like I start to think to myself, like, what would that voice be in their head that would like that would really make them feel that way? And one of the mantras that I give guys is like, I am everything my next girlfriend is looking for. And so if you think that this girl can be your next girlfriend, like then this is the best day of her life. The day that you walked up and kind of startled her a little bit and started a conversation that you might have thought was awkward in the first place. So I really like that. One of the things too that you said, there were two things about like before the approach that I liked that you said. One is curiosity. I tell guys that there's 3 attitudes that you kind of want to mix into this emotional cocktail, and it is curiosity, it's playfulness, and it's like victoriousness, confidence, like, you know, like you're a winner, and being able to like mix those into a cocktail of like attitude that you wear leaves you, asking more questions to a girl. It makes you light, kind of lighthearted because you're being playful, but then also very confident. Or leading with your crotch. What did you? What's your? What was saying?
So I was just gonna say that, like, you're just talking about mantras in the head, which are really good, but I'm talking about maybe mantras of the groin. Like, you need to be so grounded in your groin and your feet, like really firm stance. Sometimes guys are shaking and their hands are like, and they want to shake my hands. One guy in Hawaii got on a knee, I kid you not, and kissed my hand, like as if he didn't know what to do with his body. And I was like, you're a stranger on the street kissing my hand. Like, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a little much. But
it's a bit much, but he doesn't know what to do with his body, I feel like,
Right. Yo, Trip, what's going on, brother?
Oh, no.
Oh my God. Is it working?
Yeah, it's
okay.
working.
Now it's a party.
All right. So
I saw that you guys were going live and I was freaking out. I was like, my favorite people in the world.
Were you jealous, Trip?
Yeah, I was a little jealous trying to make it a three-way. I'm into it. I'm into it.
I wasn't invited to this. Get out of here.
Oh God.
Well, Trip, you just talked to me about doing another live, so I didn't want to ask to do too many collaborations. I don't know. All I know is I'm excited for your book, bro.
Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you see me?
No.
What
the fuck? That's weird.
So
listen, guys, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough. We're talking about leading with your crotch, Trip. And I like, so when you were trying to explain like what that meant, I've gone through that challenge of trying to explain it. And the way that I've best articulated to guys is like, when it comes to your body language, you've got a few centers of attention and intention. And your eyes are your attention, then it's your face, then it's your shoulders, and then it's your groin. Wherever your groin is pointed is where your intention is. And so like if there's a girl that's like where you guys are sitting and you're a guy, like I'll turn my shoulders this way, but my groin is facing straight that way. And also like when you walk, you've seen people give tutorials on how to like walk confidently, but it's all about like true confidence. And walking with confidence, Selena, you were talking about like leading with your groin. I can't simultaneously have this headset and show you my groin, but it's here. And so when you walk and your shoulders are back and your chest is up and your like solar plexus is exposed and again you're almost kind of leaning back. This does two things. One, it gives that crotch energy that you're talking about and like that intention.
It's a thing.
But two, what this does is this is a reptilian move, because what you're doing is the complete opposite of the fetal position, which is the weakest, most vulnerable position that there is. And so when you are exposing all your sensitive areas, your throat, your solar plexus, your groin, that is a primal signal to a woman that I'm not afraid of shit. And so when you walk up to her and you start talking to her and you're smiling and you're kind of like up and open, it shows that you're open and that you're not scared to be vulnerable. And so a good approach starts, or a good pickup starts way before the approach. And so we've kind of talked about like what characteristics you need to embody, and then kind of like that body language and attitude. And next we're going to get to the first line. Trip, you got anything to add on that, buddy? Oh, go ahead.
So we're talking. Where are we right now? I need to be caught up. Are we talking about the approach? About
this conversation.
You got to point your penis to the girl. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that is the. Yep, that's the technical term, right?
In this Me Too environment, this is some. You got to be very careful here.
She's the one that said lead with the crotch, lead with the groin.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's an interesting way of putting it. I never thought about it that way. I was always focused, and what I'm about to say is going to be the exact thing that you're saying, Selena, but I was always focused on just getting to the point where you're mirroring them. I just, whenever you go up and approach a girl, just get to the point where you're looking at them as if you're looking in front of a mirror, which is going to be face to face. In this case, penis to vagina is what you're.
And that's the vulnerability position that Spencer was talking about, because your strength comes from your vulnerability, and that's really attractive to women as well.
Yeah, I also think guys are they get really nervous to have to mirror them, or as you're saying, your crotch energy, because they almost feel like they want to give the girl an out to leave. Like they don't want to block her, whether it's at a bar or wherever you are. And I would say, just get in front of her. Obviously, leave a comfortable on a space between you two. If she wants to go, she'll go. But if you're gonna kind of like go, I wish there was someone here I could do this with. But if you're just like at a 45-degree angle with them, you're saying to her, this is not an important conversation to me, and you can just go at any time.
Right.
Yeah.
That's basically what you're saying. You don't want to say that. You want to use your body language to say, no, I want to be connecting and talking to you right now, and this is what's happening in this moment. If you want to leave, that's fine. But I want to make it so you understand that this is a conversation I'm having and we're getting into one.
Yeah, I find that is most important, especially if you're meeting a woman on the street, especially if she's walking towards you and you're walking towards her. A lot of guys will try to go this side by side. Really, you got to stand in front of her and stop her in what she's doing. And like, of course, give her an opportunity to like, you know, give you the juke move and in turn, but get in front of her to again proclaim like, hey, this is important. Like I'm a great guy trying to talk to you, you know?
Mm-hmm. And I would just add to that, I've had men follow me before in a grocery store down the feminine aisle. Don't try to get in front of me in the feminine aisle. That's just something you
So instead, stalk you and wait and look at you and stare at you till you
maybe wait until I get my supplies and then we can chat after.
Yeah, that might be right. I'm not sure that you'd want to be dating a guy
what's worse, stalking and waiting and just kind of peering over, or just going up when they're in the feminine aisle?
Well, I've had both, so I don't know what's worse.
I can just imagine a guy going up to a girl in the feminine and be like, so.
It 100% happened to me in Australia. A guy came up to me in the feminine aisle and he was wet. He'd come from the surf and he wanted to take me on a surf lesson. I mean, great line. He was a confident guy, but I was like, it's like an awkward, I don't know.
Right.
Like I'm totally open. I don't think it should be taboo to be like looking at feminine products because it's totally normal for a woman. But at the same time, as an approach tactic, like maybe like get me in the produce aisle or I don't know, the Band-Aid section.
Right, or somewhere near the chocolate, something like that. Anything other than that, right.
Buy me some chocolates. I don't know.
So I want to ask you this question. So when you're out, let's just say it's like out at a bar or a party, like a typical place where people are meeting people, right? Mm-hmm. Can a woman tell that a man is like wanting to approach but too nervous to do it? Can a woman tell that a man's like been scoping you out for a while?
Absolutely. We can sense hesitancy because that's not confident, 100% confident.
Okay. So
masculine energy is 100% direct, decisive, and you just go for it. You go for what you want. You hunt. That's masculine energy. It's either you have it or you don't. If you're wavering on it, I mean, it's not 100%.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So, all right, so same guy, or let's say two different guys, but same situation. They're both there. They're both nervous to go talk to you. One is hesitant, and you already talked about that. And then one comes up to you and he actually starts talking to you, but he's a little awkward. You know, you can tell that he's really nervous. Like, which guy has more of a chance? The one that is hesitant or the one that is awkward?
You know, I've had that situation before where it's just two guys at the bar, and I found the one that I was more drawn to was the one who was kind of like awkwardly funny. Like he was kind of like, I see you. Like he's trying to catch my attention another way rather than just like creepily staring at me. You know how guys have that rule, like look at a woman for 3 seconds and catch her eyes and smile and look away, or like the woman's supposed to do that to a man and that's supposed to spark some kind of attraction. For me, sometimes that can be a little bit creepy from across the bar. But if you're making kind of light of it, like a joke of it, you know, and you're like, oh, I see you, or you're like, you come here. Like, I think that's more funny. It's a little bit awkward, but I think it's more charming. I think that's charisma, which I know that is one of your points.
Yeah.
It's a bit of personality.
Yeah. Trip, what do you think?
And it's also vulnerable. It's like you just go for it in that sense. Like either she's gonna 100% turn you down or she's gonna think it's funny and go for it.
So are we saying the guy who's going to go and approach and be a little bit awkward versus the guy who's hesitant?
Yeah, like the guy who's hesitant is looking for that perfect moment, like jumping into a double dutch. Like he's just sitting there waiting, and the other guy is just like, shit, I'm just gonna go, and he goes, but he's awkward. He's fumbling over his words. He's nervous. Like both are not in a great position, but which one? Like you got to start somewhere. Where do you think
the awkward guy? Because I think we all know that when the hesitant guy ends up approaching, he's going to be awkward too. So he's double screwing himself, right? So the guy who's just going to go up and do it is always going to be the winner. I always think this too. It's like, and Selena, I think you'd agree with this. Is that when a guy goes up and approaches, even if he's awkward, he's fumbling, he gets a lot of credit for going up there.
For sure.
He's up there. He's doing it. It's like there is already a foundation of confidence on some level because he showed up.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think
I always give kudos to them for that. Yes. And I always verbalize that too. And not in a condescending way, like in a genuine, like, that's actually really cool that you came up.
Yeah. And, I've also heard guys with the apprehension of, I don't want other people to see me hitting on this girl. Yeah. I had one client that was in the waiting room at a doctor's office, and he really hit it off with this woman, and she was about to leave, and he was like, oh, hey, it was really nice meeting you. Didn't ask her out on the date because he was like, everyone's here. And I told him, like, now maybe this is because I'm a dating coach, but I've never seen a guy go for it and a woman be like, oh, sorry, I've got a boyfriend, or no, I'm not interested, and me think, what a loser. Like, I'm like, yo, respect, dude. Like almost nobody does that. And so what are your guys' perspective of a guy doing it like quote unquote in public, like in front of people?
Not gonna lie, when it's happened to me in the past, depending on who it is, I know a few years ago, I would have just gave a guy my number just because other people were watching, specifically when I've been in like a Whole Foods in New York. I can recall that happening a few times. But other times I'm just like, hey, I kind of say I'm seeing someone, or I'm just like not interested at this time. And usually it's not a big deal. I mean, some people do listen in, especially in a grocery store where it's pretty crowded. People get kind of curious. A guy's been cheered on before in Whole Foods. It's just like, it's human connection. Like if people are weirded out by it or awkward or whatever, like it's just because they're kind of jealous or insecure that they can't do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of guts.
I would say if any guys who are listening right now, if you've been in that position where it's like you had this opportunity to ask a girl out and you're just like, I can't do this right now. There's people watching, or she's with friends or something's going on. And then you walk away. The pain that you're going to experience from like, fuck, I should have just done it. Why didn't I do it? That pain right there, that emotional just cringe where you just get upset with yourself, that pain is way greater than the pain the pain that you'll experience when you're actually performing the line or whatever you're going to say to ask her out. Because listen, at the end of the day, you're going to do it. And it's not like, I'm not going to tell you guys like, oh, you're going to do it and it's going to be fine. No, you're going to be like cringing in the moment of like, this is embarrassing and this sucks. But even if it doesn't work out, you're going to walk away and go, you know what? I did it. And you're going to feel
That's
so
growth.
much better.
Yes. Yeah.
That's exactly
it.
It's growth, it's evolution. And you just go on to the next step with even more confidence.
Right. And there is a part of it too, where there has to be a part of you that enjoys a good, funny story as well, yes. or else like you're just going to disqualify yourself in general. I remember I was out with a couple of students, and it was winter, so it's kind of hard to see like what people are about in the winter, because they got all the clothes and stuff. And I walk up to these girls, invite them to go have some like hot chocolate, and I gave a line about hot chata. It's a combination of rum chata and hot chocolate. It's delicious. Anyways, they're like, we're in high school. And I was like, oh my God. So here's the thing, like typically you'd be like, all right, see ya, bye. No, I was like, oh, cool. I'm like, did you guys come from the suburbs to go ice skating here? They're like, yeah. you know, I talked to him about like high school things, and then I saw myself out, right?
Yeah.
But again, like that's a funny story, a little creepy, but that's a funny story. And if you can't if you can't enjoy some of those great stories, then you're gonna end up missing out on a lot of other really great stories. On the other hand, where you met the girl, you got the number, went on the date, and like, you know, this adventure, you know, started between the two of you.
That's, you know, that should encourage guys to go for that story. What about that one story where you're at the dentist office and you were flirting with the secretary and everyone's looking, and then you asked her out and she said yes?
Right.
How awesome is that?
Yeah.
You'll never get the opportunity to tell that story if you don't even try it.
Right.
And that's a fun story to tell. And also, just like, you know, it doesn't work out, that's still a fun story too. It's a great experience to have. Like you said, Selena, you grow.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So let's talk about, like, once you're in the conversation, the act of being charismatic and what that looks like. So Selena, or maybe it was in one of the videos that I watched of yours, and you were saying, you know, let the woman talk more, which is a good piece of advice. But what happens if a woman is just giving you one-word answers and all of a sudden you start falling into interview mode? Like, what do you suggest the guys do then?
A woman, you know what? A woman can't give one-word answers if you're giving a solid question from a place of curiosity and an open-ended question that digs deep into her passions and her emotions. Girls and guys communicate very differently, especially in our topics. Like, we don't talk about football and things. Like, when women share things, like, we're sharing deep conversations about our passions, about our emotions, how we feel when we do something, how we feel when we speak to someone. It's all about feeling. And so men need to tap into that and ask questions so that they can express that. And then they get so excited to talk about it. It's just like when a girl asks you, like, oh, what do you do for work? You could say, oh, banking. Well, that's boring. Or you could ask a question like, you know, what are you really passionate about? Or what was like the best or funniest thing that happened to you at work today? Or just like a more, like, I don't know, round, vibrant question, like has a little bit more meat to it.
I got one for you. I got one for the guys to use.
All right. Yeah.
They can say, so it's kind of more of a follow-up question. You know? So, oh, what do you do for a living? And then she'll say, I don't know, someone say something.
Yeah, well, she said banking. So
banking. And you say, what's that like?
Okay.
Now in that scenario, it's not the best example for asking for what they do, but you say, what's that like? Or what was that like? You're asking them to describe something in detail of what their experience is.
Right.
Right. So you're a banker. It's interesting. What's that like? What's that all about?
Right. So to take,
because no one's getting those questions asked to them. No one's ever getting that girl's never gotten a question of what being a banker is like, ever.
Right. And that comes from a place of curiosity, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like, what do you do in your day-to-day? Like, I actually have no idea what a banker does in their day-to-day. I actually have no idea because I'm not in that profession. So I would come from that place and not play dumb, but just be really curious. And when you show like that energy that you're really interested in, even maybe the most like boring part of their life, maybe they don't really enjoy that banking job, but you show a lot of interest in it because you're really curious, they're gonna kind of get fired up about it. They're like, oh yeah, actually, well, I do this, and they get more into it.
Like asking questions that would be interesting to you. Like the first thing that comes to my mind, I would ask, I would say, what is the most money you've ever seen in someone's bank account before?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good
I
one.
just came over that out because I'm literally curious about that. Like,
right.
What, you know, like the teller, like I go into a bank and the teller sees what I have in my bank account. I'm like, this is so vulnerable. This woman sees everything that's going on, and she's doing that with everyone. And to her, it's like no big deal, you know.
Yeah.
And so you kind of get in that mindset of what would that be like to be a banker? And a pretty just normal job, but look how we've all now just made it a little bit more interesting.
Right. Yeah. So there's something that that I have guys do, which is a form of active listening. But in Trip, you kind of did it there too, where you bring them into, like, you go into their world as a curious you, and sometimes I'll use like a false assumption, right? Like I know that that's not what banking is like, but that's what I'd say. So if I'd be like, so what do you do for a living? And she's like, well, I do banking. So I'm like, so you just sit there and count money all day? Like, do you just do you throw it in the pile where Scrooge McDuck dives into the coins? Like, what is that like? So I create a scenario that's clearly like ridiculous. So then she can correct by contrasting that. Whereas some people have a hard time explaining what they do. They've got something to contrast it against. It makes it easier for them to speak. So I use, like I said, false assumptions to give them context to speak against, so they can actually tell me what they do. Trip, your advice was a form of active listening in terms of curiosity, of like asking a question that they don't really get, they don't really get asked that much. Like, that's a great question. I would love to know that, but I find like when you're asking a question and she gives you like a one-word answer, like, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a dental hygienist. Taking that, playing it with a little, talking about your relationship to that, and then asking another question. Oh, my mom was a dental hygienist for like 8 years. It was a pediatric one, so a kid bit her finger off, so she had to quit. Have you had anything like that happen to you? And then they get into their stories and stuff like that.
What's the grossest thing you've ever seen when you were cleaning someone's teeth?
Yeah, that would be. Yeah, I'm sure there's been impacted molars that are good for a story or two.
Or besides a place of curiosity, you can also come from a place of observation. So you can kind of turn that on its head and be like, oh, dentist, like I totally saw you as something completely different, and then kind of say what you thought you saw her as. And it could be something funny or something that she actually looks like she could have been a librarian instead of a banker. And then you kind of make fun of it. And then that kind of opens her up. Because a lot of the time when women are giving that one-word answers is they're feeling a little bit vulnerable and they don't really know how to deal with their emotions in this kind of state. So by you loosening her up and just you being that fun, vibrant energy, it will get the ball rolling.
Or another one is you could do, I used to have a name for this technique. It's like a we technique. Okay, so she says she's a banker. You can say, all right, listen, here's what we're going to do. We're going to devise a plan. We're going to rob this thing. Now that you're on the inside, they're never going to think it's you. We're going to make this happen. What do you say?
Right.
Or something like that.
That's awesome.
How many people are watching right now? I can't see.
I mean, she's got 4 people. I got 7 people
on the
there.
Instagram. Can people see me on the Instagram?
No, you're not on the Instagram. No.
What? I'm just a voice?
You're not even a voice, because people were saying on Instagram that they couldn't hear you, Trip, and you had to go to the YouTube.
Oh my God. Okay, listen.
I know, tragic.
I'm gonna press send request in Instagram. Get me on there.
Well, hold on. You can only be on YouTube.
People? I think you can do 2.
You can only, or on your phone, you can only, so we both have our computers and our phones on right now.
Yeah.
So we're doing YouTube Live or on our computers, and we're doing Instagram on our Instagram. My mind is in the, I don't know what you're saying. I'm going to go on Instagram right now. I'm going to press send request to you, Selena, and let's see what happens.
Okay, but if we do that, I think that you and I won't be talking on Instagram. We'll still be talking on live, but I think it'll just be Trip and I talking on my Instagram then.
Oh, well, let's check it out. And Trip, if you're not on for this one.
He's so keen to get on.
Right. My buddy Prince joined. Prince, what's going on, brother? All right, Trip just sent a request.
I haven't seen the request. I think it's supposed to come up in. You're like a child. Trip, you didn't send it. I don't think it worked.
I saw it. I saw the request. Oh, Trip. You wanted to get in on the call, and now you're just messing up the lives.
Oh, sad face.
Well, maybe he will get on the live. Yo, Trip, if you want to come back on the YouTube or on the Google Hangout, just go to the link that I sent you, and you can get back on. All right, so here's my next question.
Yeah.
So before we get into the chemistry part, we're talking about like the charisma part. So really, this is the part of the conversation where it's like, all right, you're already in, you've had some like one-on-one time talking together, but then something happens with guys, which I feel like this moment here is what guys actually fear. And men don't fear the approach. They don't fear a drink in their face. They fear this, is an awkward moment of silence when they don't know what else to say. So like they kind of, what happens to guys is like, it's because they're in front of a beautiful woman. Like there's literally a switch in a man's brain that turns off to make you stupid. Like your IQ actually goes down when you see a beautiful, no, it's true. It's designed to turn us into bumbling humping machines. Like it's like it's reptilian. So the thing is like when a guy experiences that, he kind of just doesn't know what to do. And this is when guys either get aggressive or just like stupidly assertive, or they cower and they just kind of dismiss themselves. So like, what
you can do is go into your masculine energy. So if this is a really primal thing, like you say, why not just use your body and your physicality to pull her closer? Like depending on where you're sitting, like if you're sitting at a restaurant together, why don't you kind of put your arm around her, put your hand on her leg and just sit and observe, and just like the masculine energy is very present and very being. So if you just kind of get grounded in your groin and centered in that kind of bottom half of your body, instead of all up in your head thinking, what am I going to say next? Does she like me? When am I going to kiss her? Like stop thinking and just be in that masculine energy and relax back into it. And woman, I promise you, will not think it's awkward. She will melt into her feminine energy and feel so relaxed that you're at ease with yourself, you're at ease with the silence, and she'll snuggle up to you. And then you have a little moment, and then when something comes to mind, you can speak. And if not, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think being so comfortable with silence is like the best.
Yeah. And I agree. And I think that like if a guy is on a date, I think that is just awesome advice. And it's actually like doing the opposite of what you want to do. You want to cower, but instead like be more present, be more masculine, make like a physical move. But what if a guy has been talking to you and it's been 90 seconds he's talking to you, and he's like, hey, how's it going? Where are you headed today? And then all of a sudden he's just like, oh shoot. And then that moment where he's like, I am just flat out of anything. Like, one, what's going through a woman's mind when that happens?
Okay, so this has happened to me before when a guy has approached me on the street and he was a little bit at a loss for words. And he then kind of broke that. I feel like you're breaking, it was what we call in acting, like a third wall. He's like, oh, you know what, just to let you know, like, I'm actually really nervous. Like, I just saw you. I just thought I had to say hi. Like, I'm feeling a little bit like, shell shocked at the moment. He said something like that. And I was like, oh my God, it's totally okay. Like I kind of gave him a little bit of comfort. I was like, it's really nice to meet you. And like, it's flattering that you came up to me. Like I tried to kind of give him a compliment and confidence back. And then after that, he was fine again. So I think if you're open and vulnerable, like don't try to be someone that you're not, and try to be manly and cover it up and then have this like, I don't know, something lame come out of your mouth. Accept it. Yeah. Feel what that feels like and then articulate that. And that's what emotional intelligence is. It's identifying what you're feeling inside. So if you're feeling nervous, identify that, feel that, and then share that, be able to articulate that with women. And women are all about feelings. So honestly, as soon as you say that you're feeling a certain way, women understand it right away. They're like, oh my gosh, she shared, because that's what women do. We share feelings. We're going to be so open and receptive to that and like, hey, it's totally okay. It doesn't make you any less masculine. That makes you more real.
Right. I love that. Yeah.
And there's a strength in that vulnerability.
Yeah. And it's, I know that a few of my guys are watching right now. Hold on. So I know that a few of my guys are watching right now, and a few guys that have been on my live training that I do. And the piece of advice that I give, it's kind of like this emergency button that you press when you're speaking to a woman. It's like it's kind of going good, and then all of a sudden it falls flat. And the line to say is like, just give me a second. Just give me a second here. I get really nervous around beautiful women. Okay, this is much better. So like, I love the imagery you gave of breaking the fourth wall. Like, okay, we know that I'm here trying to pick you up, cute. That's why I came up. Maybe you haven't said it yet, but it's apparent, right? And so it's like, hey, I just came here because like I thought you were really cute. I want to come here and see if you were just as cool. I'm really nervous right now, so like, just let me take a deep breath here for a second.
Yeah,
like, that is it. I love it. I love what you said.
It's endearing.
Yes, it doesn't make you less masculine. It makes you more real. Oh, that was my favorite line of yours. in our toxic. That was dope. Super dope. So I hope my Omega men are watching this right now, so you guys could hear it from Selena being like, just be vulnerable. Like, it doesn't make you weak. It makes you real, and that is exactly what women are looking for. And if you can go to default and talk about your feelings, or ask her to talk about how she felt about something, like, you almost can't go wrong in that, no matter what the awkward scenario is, you know? So I think that's really good. All right, so finally, let's talk about chemistry. We've been going for a little while now, but I'm having fun.
So interesting. I'm finding this a really interesting conversation.
Good. We've had surprise guest appearances. We've had technical difficulties, multiple platforms. This is big time. This is big time.
We need our own show now.
Right,
I'm ready.
Right. It's like international audience and hosts. You know, Trip, I think, is in Denver. I'm in Chicago. You're in London.
It's in Denver. Yeah. Using some sort of conference room or something.
Yeah.
By the way, look at my glass. What is this? Sexy beast. This is the mindset that you need to have when approaching a woman, that you're a sexy beast. There you go. Mantra of the day.
Yep. Assume attraction. That was another goal.
Yes. Assume attraction. I'm assuming everyone right now thinks this, right? And you should think the same about yourself.
Right. Yeah, and if you're not showing up that way, then okay, so like if you're talking to women, even if like you go out for the evening and you spend a couple hours going to meet new women, right? And you have those nights that you're just not feeling it, right? You don't need to take a look at like what's in front of you. How come I'm so scared here? How come I'm so scared here? Right. It's the other 22 hours of the day that made you feel like this. And that's why lifestyle and like personal development is such an important part to, attracting love into your life, because you said this in another one of your videos, where it's like, she's not just dating you, she's dating your schedule. She's dating your career. She's dating your friend group. She's dating your past. She's dating, your scars and all that stuff, and your success. So, so let's get to the third part here, which is chemistry. So, the guy had the confidence to walk up to the girl. He's got the charisma to like get into conversation, make her laugh a little bit. But now here's where it gets tricky. And this is where a lot of guys get hung up. It's like, well, I had a great conversation, but she didn't want to give me her number, which means that there was no like sexual chemistry, no romantic chemistry between the two of them. So what do you think is the number one contributor when a man is, meeting a new woman in the first, 5 minutes that's causing it to go flat and dull like that?
Right. Can I just say, we have 1 minute, 30 seconds on my IG Live. Where can they find this clip on your YouTube so that people can follow along and watch this after?
Go to Spencer. Yeah, Spencer Burnett Invincible Academy, and it's live right now. You guys could head there and join us there, and it will be posted afterwards, so you guys can watch it whenever you want. So
that's Spencer Burnett Invisible Academy.
Invincible Academy.
Invincible. Oh my God, not invisible. Don't be invisible.
No one can see me. No one can see me. That's the whole thing.
You don't want to be invisible in life, guys.
That is like the creepiest dating coach name of a company. Is like don't be seen, just be heard.
Oh gosh, that's so bad. Okay, invincible, guys. Sorry about that. Because it's going to log off in 30 seconds. But yeah, so back to your question. So what makes it like make or break chemistry is basically what you're saying.
Yeah. What contributes to there not being any chemistry? And then like, what kind of advice do you give guys to help them like escalate in a way that's assertive, but not aggressive, Yeah.
Well, the masculine energy is very direct and decisive, right? Like no hesitation. And I also think like a sense of humor is just so important. Like that, for me, chemistry comes a lot down to like, can you banter and have fun? Like, are you entertaining yourself? If you're entertaining yourself, you're most likely entertaining me.
Yeah, love that. Self-amusement. Trip actually just did a video on that, and I'm all about that as well. When guys are sending texts, and I'm sure you get this a lot. Guys are like, okay, is this okay to send? Is this okay to send? And I'm like, hey, like, are you laughing? Because like I always can tell like when I'm sending a charming text message is because like I'm laughing my ass off, in the middle of sending it. I send my girlfriend emojis all the time, and she
Yeah.
she loves them. And again, if I think it's funny, then I'm sending it no matter how appropriate it may seem. Again, like we've been together
Yeah.
a year. We've been together a
I
year
do-
to get more permission. I was like, where did you
were
go?
saying you've been together for a year.
I was like, did you take that Invisible Academy
computer's
stuff
gonna-
seriously?
My computer's gonna die. Okay, wait. Okay, we're good. We're good.
All right, cool.
So you've been with your girlfriend for how long?
A year yesterday.
A year. Oh wow! Congrats.
Yeah.
You had a little anniversary yesterday.
We did, and we met on Instagram.
Aha.
Yeah.
So how did you find the chemistry then when you first?
That's a very great question. So she found me because she hashtagged enlightenment, and I was writing something enlightening about being in my notebook, which I'm always in, and and then like she was gorgeous, so, like I followed her naturally, and tastefully followed her, like not liking all of her pictures. Actually, you guys go to my YouTube channel, there is the Instagram flirting formula where me and my girlfriend are actually flirting with girls on Instagram together and showing guys how to do that appropriately.
Oh, cool.
It's in the channel. So our connection really started out with like our like fundamental principles of life. I did this 100-day monster challenge where I stopped drinking, smoking weed, any other drugs, fried food, gluten, added sugar, fake sugars, no TV, no social media, no masturbation, tons, like almost everything in my life. And she was like, wow, I really like like where you're coming from. I like what you stand for and stuff. And then we started chatting a little bit more about like spiritual stuff. And then I went through a personal tragedy. I had a friend of mine pass away, and that was actually the day we were supposed to talk. And I like reached out to her later in the day. I was like, hey, I know we were supposed to talk, but I'm going through some shit right now. And we had conversations about that, and like the way that my emotions were handled in a really tough time where I was like having a really tough time. It was a very unexpected passing. I've never been like held by a woman like that before. And it was just over the phone. And then as we connected like interpersonally and then spiritually, then it became just a little bit more flirty. For me, it's kind of easy because I'm a dating and sex coach. So like when she asked me, well, what's that about? That opens up all types of doors for me to be more sexual, for me to be a little bit more edgy, and to kind of like draw her into some of my stories. Cause you gotta be careful which ones you tell off the bat, but she was intrigued by it, and still is completely intrigued by it. I mean, she's one of our viewers right now. And she started really like, she loves like psychology and attraction, and loved like hearing about that. And she's a super, really talented singer. She's on a singing competition show. I don't know if I'm allowed to tell you which one. So all those NDAs and stuff, but she's like crazy, like stupid talented. And so like we kind of fell in love with each other's, with this side of each other that was passionate for the things that we were passionate about, but also fell in love with that person's passion. Like I love music, and she loves like communication and relationships. So, and then it blossomed from there. So that is
So the chemistry was a little, because there's different stages of chemistry. I feel like some people can be hot and heavy and just have that sexual chemistry right off the bat. And then some people can have more of like the verbal, like the values. It sounds like your values kind of lined up at the beginning, and that's where you found common ground and that kind of chemistry and attraction. So I feel like there's different levels of chemistry, and it also depends on which medium that you are, or medium you're communicating on. So you said you were talking over the phone.
Right. Yeah. And we ended up Skyping, and, when, again, when it comes to dating, I'm a little bit more advanced. I've been a dating coach for 9 years. So you kind of have to decide like what you're going to lead with. If you lead with sexuality, it's a good way to like, get this intense emotional connection, but it can be fleeting. It can run a little bit too hot. That can be the thing that's keeping you together. On the other hand, when you lead with like values and connection and morality, you run a risk of just becoming really good friends. and being in genuine friends. So there is this healthy balance where it's like, if you go too much with like just ideals and personal principles, you might go friend zone. If you lead too much with the sexuality, it's just like, well, he's just some dude to sleep with while I find my person, you know? And so you've got to be able to use the gas and the brake in the right context in order for there to be like a solid connection made that's healthy on both sides. You're great lovers and you're great partners.
Totally agree. That's the fine balance that I feel like a lot of people are trying to find within dating, because I have women come to me saying the same thing. You know, we know that men love a sexual woman, and guys really love sex and physical attraction, but that's not what's going to keep you together with him. You know, that's not going to be something that's longevity, that's really long term.
Yeah, and I find that sex is not the thing that makes a relationship, but the quality of sex is a great measure of how the relationship's going. Because like, especially
communication with the body.
Yeah. And if that's not going well, it's usually not a matter of like, you know, mechanics, you know, it's a matter of like the way that you guys are connecting outside of the bedroom.
Yes.
So I find that it's a really good measure. So one of the things that started the attraction, because chemistry has a lot more to do with just sexuality. The thing that started out was, she asked me what I did for a living, and I'm like, well, I'm a life coach of sorts, which kind of opens the door for a lot of interpretations. And then she's like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, well, I'm a professional playboy, I guess you could say. And
did you call yourself that? What?
Yeah, I did. And that kind of like, she was like, whoa, like, well, what does that mean? And that opened up this conversation. And so so before I kind of talk about like what it is like technically that I did there that was really effective, I want to ask you this, like, so at some point a woman's got to know that he's a sexual being that's interested in having sex with her.
Yeah.
At some point. So what is the best way to kind of like start the whole sexual connection between a man and a woman? Like, how does he ease into that? Yeah.
Every guy is different, and every single date that I've been on is different. Every relationship's different. I don't know if you can really say that, but I think it all really does come down to communication. And like, you can sleep with someone on a first night, but communicate about it. And, you know, the guy's saying, you know, I'm not going to ghost you or leave you. I actually do like you, but I just have a really strong connection with you and would love to connect physically. Whereas some people, you know, can wait 4 or 5 dates, you know, 1 date a week, that's 4 or 5 weeks, and not sleep with you. And they've grown that deeper kind of verbal and moral and value connection. And then you still sleep together and you communicate about it. And it's awesome. And they're just like, yeah, I was holding out because I see having a relationship with you and I want to be monogamous before I sleep with you. You know, everyone's going to be different in the way that they approach it, but as long as you communicate about it and what you're looking for, I mean, maybe not on the first date, you say, yeah, I'm looking for a monogamous, you know, relationship. I wouldn't maybe say it on the first date, but it's definitely open for conversation, second or third date, kind of what you're looking for, so you're on the same page.
Right. So what about like in the first 5 minutes of him talking to you? Is it inappropriate to be sexual? And
I wouldn't. No, see, I wouldn't lead. It comes off of creepy when you try to lead with a sexual conversation, like within 5 minutes of meeting someone.
Sure. And so here's always like the conundrum. At some point, you have to be talking about sex before you have it. The only time that you're not talking about sex before you have it is when you're drinking. You know what I mean? Like then,
I don't think you need to be outright talking about it. I think there's a way to communicate your sexual like lust for them, or your physicality, or your sexual confidence, but say it in like a funny, like humorous, teasing way. I think teasing and banter is the best way to go about that.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it's playful, right? And you said playfulness is really important.
Yeah, right. And so like, guys, I want you to hear me when I'm talking about being sexual. I'm not saying that like in the first 5 minutes of a conversation, you're talking to her about how you want to put your tongue on her collarbone and yada, yada, yada. Like, that's not what I'm saying. Like, save that for like when you've warmed the pot a little bit. But the thing is like she has to know that you're a sexual being, or else you're just the guy giving her directions to Starbucks or like whatever you use to talk to her, right?
And
so
you can do that with playfulness within your words, but also your physicality. Like men are such physical, right, masculine beings, and sometimes they can be so stiff and nervous around a woman that they're not even getting close to them. Like, you know, instead of suggesting sitting across from each other at a restaurant, suggest that the woman sits beside you so you have more of that close proximity. Like close the gap. Make her feel comfortable early on, rather than all of a sudden at the end of the day you're scrambling to try to figure out how you're going to kiss her.
Right. Yeah. I've got a special. Well, in my membership program, I talk about the best way to kiss a girl on a first date. I'll have to share that with you when we're off air. Yeah, that one's behind the wall. Yeah, but it's gold. Which, by the way, guys, getting your first kiss at the end of the date is just the worst idea. It's the worst. It's so awkward.
The girl feels it too. The girl's like, there's this build up and you're like, okay, when's he going to kiss me? And now we have to wait till the end of the night. Is he going to do it at the door, at the car? Like it makes you so nervous.
Right. Yeah. And there is a way to mitigate that. I might be able to give that away in my free training. I'm going to have a link, guys, for my training in the description below. So if you guys want to attend that, I do that every other week. So the suggestion that I give guys to how to like start the sexual conversation is speak sexually in her presence, but not at her. Okay.
Yes.
So when my girlfriend asked me like what I did for a living, I said I'm a professional playboy. That right there, she automatically knows, okay, this guy's a little bit of trouble, at least a little bit. And like, and he's sexual and he knows how to have fun. But I didn't continue the conversation about how I was going to, come after her and hunt her. I simply spoke about sex in her presence, and then we discussed it. And then slowly we started adding the we frame to it, us. And again, keep in mind that sexuality isn't just like penetration or just like being naked. Like sexuality, sex starts the moment that you meet eyes. Like that is foreplay. Conversation is foreplay. The text messages in the middle of the day, that's foreplay. The way that you walk by her and slide your hand across, one shoulder to the next as you turn around and look at her, that's all foreplay. That's all sex. Like it's all like, heart energy and groin energy, as you would put it, mixing together with a physical act. It's not just, penis vagina penetration. So I would encourage you, like, if you want to learn or if you want to be more comfortable sexually escalating with a woman, two things. One, start light. Okay. And that could be simply just by the way that you smile. There's definitely a different smile between like, oh, wow, that's nice, and oof, who the hell are you? You know what I mean?
And it's in the eyes.
Yeah,
the eyes are everything.
Right.
Eye contact.
And then the way that you're having conversations. Again, it's just like the first kiss. If you're not like holding hands and touching your arm when she talks, and walking arm in arm into a restaurant, opening up a door, putting your hand on the small of her back as she's going by. Like those are all little micro escalations to get to the kiss. Yes. Whereas if you're completely stiff the whole time and then at the end you're like, well, see ya, it's awkward. So like it's about embodying your sexuality in the way that you look at her, the eye contact, the way that you interact. Again, your advice on being playful and even if it's as corny as that's what she said jokes, that's still, you're speaking sexually without being a pervert, depending on the joke. But so yeah. All right, guys. So that is the time that we have for today. I think we maybe went over time, but I had a great time. Hopefully
I had such a great time. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we will definitely have to do this again because there's so much more to talk about. Like all we got to talk about today is like from confidence to chemistry, and like after that, oh my gosh, like well then you get her number, and then how do you text her? What do you say after that? What if she ghosts you? What do you do?
A million things after that. Yeah.
Right. Okay, well, it was an absolute pleasure having you on my channel and being on your Instagram channel, and hopefully we'll do this again soon.
Yes, if you guys want to see it on my Instagram is Selina Eliz, CELINAELIZ. I guess it'll just be on for 24 hours. But yeah, that was really fun. We should do like another Instagram live because I know a lot of people had questions too. I would have loved to answer some of them.
Yeah, and we'll get our tech down. Like my computer is like right above where the questions were, so I couldn't see the questions.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get it down. We'll get it down better next time. And I'll also put, for any of you guys that want to work with Selena, I'll put her website into the description below as well, so you guys can get an opportunity to work with her one-on-one, so she can help you meet the women of your dreams.
Yeah.
All
Thanks
right.
for having me.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.